you. Thank you very much. Yep. I'm 1 year older,
Hmm.
so that's exciting. And
How old are you? Do you tell people?
I'm 48. No,
Oh
I'm
boy,
49. I'm 49 now.
oh my God, you're such a baby.
I'll be 50 next year.
So I knew you were younger than me. I just didn't realize how much older I was. Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm 48.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
Nine. No, you're 49.
Yeah, I'm 49. There you go. I'm so used to saying 48 because I've been 48 for a whole year.
Right. Right.
I'm just glad I didn't turn 50 this year.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, nowhere to celebrate, like, you know, the way you want to.
I know, right? But what I did do is I went paddleboarding first thing in the
I
morning.
saw.
And then I
Okay.
gave a lecture for a college where I have an art show that's up right now.
Oh, nice.
And it's so that's pretty great. And so I gave a lecture for the college, and my computer was giving me all kinds of issues. Not, it was a little
Yeah.
stressful in the beginning. So anyway, that happened. And then I had a luncheon with a couple friends. I am of the belief that it's kind of okay to have like a patio lunch, but
Mhm.
I don't really want to like be in restaurants.
Mm.
Right.
Haven't quite felt like that's the right thing to do yet.
No.
I had a lunch and oh, they're on the other side of the room now. I got all these happy birthday glasses.
Yeah.
You saw the
Try
picture.
it over the weekend on your table.
Oh yeah, I had them on the weekend. Yeah, I got them at Walmart. I never shop at Walmart, but I was looking for a life preserver because I got the stand-up paddleboard, and I ordered a life preserver, but it wasn't coming.
Oh,
And I didn't want to get a fine for being on the water without the life preserver, So at any rate, so that's the deal. And how about you? Did you all have a good 2 week break? We were on a real what do you call it, pace, and then we had a little break,
break, yeah.
which I have to say I've moved 3 times. I hotel surfed. I created that it was an adventure, but it was a very annoying adventure. I was in 2 different hotels and dog sat, and now I'm in this beautiful cottage. And I was telling Lavanya that right before you got on, Susan, I basically called up all the very wealthy people who I knew that had big homes and extra homes and second homes, and I asked if I could stay in one because
Nice.
a certain amount of insurance that will
Hmm.
cover,
Mm.
but I could see that it was going to like go away really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So anyway, I knew that this friend of mine had like a guest house on their property, and so I'm living here right now.
Nice.
And it gives me a little space to make a new plan and catch up on some of my work stuff and finish emptying out my house, which is a pain in the butt.
Is it your house or?
I lease it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't own it. I lease it.
Yeah.
Um,
Otherwise, that's a new hassle.
yeah, yeah. So, any rate. Susan, I looked early in the morning at that thing that you sent me, asking pricing on metal, and then I just had a super busy second half of the
Right.
day. So I
Yeah,
wasn't.
but I didn't send it. I didn't send you. I don't think you got the pictures, but I sent it again.
Oh, you did with the
I
pictures?
sent it again. I didn't. I just said maybe we could just talk on the phone briefly about it because
Yeah.
I don't know. It's more about, I have somebody who can create it. It's more
Mhm.
about, it's a big sort of, it's more about fundraising so that it's just about sort of getting a sense from you, like what's involved. Like, do I need lifts and, that kind of thing. So
Oh,
like in terms of what I should think about for
okay.
equipment and people and transportation, and then I need to fund. I joined Fractured Atlas, and I would need to kind of fundraise, I think, to get like a sponsor, somebody to sponsor this. It's an exhibition in New York on
Oh,
the streets, and the Sculptors Guild, that I'm a member, is going to submit everybody, the proposal for the group. And
great.
so I have a really big piece, and I'd like to do a living wall.
Oh,
Um, so I just need I need a frame to maybe a freestanding, because I probably can't drill into the ground.
right.
anyway, and it's a very large piece, and I could actually do it with this. I do have one more smaller piece I could do it with if it becomes too big of a deal, but I don't want to pay, I do not want to pay out of my own pocket, not that I could, for all of this. So
Mm.
I want to fundraise and find a sponsor, but I want to think about what kind of things I need, what I need to price out, because I know you've done a lot of large installations with lifts and lots of people. And so I just thought,
Oh, to figure out what to price it as.
well, just, yeah, not so much what to price it at, but what to think about so that I could go and get prices. Like, if you say, oh, you need to have this kind of truck, or, like you're going to, so if you look at it and you'll see and
Yeah.
picture it being outside, they're not hoisting it up on a thing where it's going to hang from a ceiling. It's going to get attached. And I sent you one picture that shows where I attached it. It was a mock-up of what I did in the Botanic Garden, but where I wrapped it around the steel pole that holds it up. But I'd need a frame, left and right sides, and then have like, something that makes it freestanding and
Mm.
balanced so it wouldn't fall over.
Yeah. Temporary or permanent?
Well, no, it's temporary, but for like maybe not quite a year.
Oh, okay. So, and you definitely don't want it to fall over.
No,
Kind
no.
of are you allowed to attach into the concrete?
Well, that's what I'm going to find out.
Yeah, you need to find that out because that would
Right.
definitely
Right.
influence, you know what I mean, what you would do. Because if you can like core drill into the concrete and just have a pole, that's the easiest. Otherwise, you have to have a base plate and then have some kind of a base plate and then be able to bolt it into the ground would be another way of doing it.
Right. Yep. I know. I shall have to find that out. Okay.
So, so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about success.
Okay.
And inside of success, we've had this conversation before, haven't we?
Yeah.
In fact, this lesson was inspired by our conversation, I have to honestly admit. So, inside of, well, anything for you, Lavanya, before we jump in?
I
Lavanya?
think it's a perfect conversation for where I'm at this week.
Okay, good.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, good. So yeah, so the theme, so we have a couple of themes today, and it's about defining success. What does your personal version of success look like to you? We're also going to talk about staying inspired and like, what do you do when you get a lot of no's?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that? Okay. So let's just bounce around a little bit of ideas. Well, I'm going to share with you a few of my personal versions. I may have conversationally done this with you previously, but for me, of course, there's always the financial success, right? That's always going to be there as a marker, right? However, if that were the only thing that I looked at to determine whether I was a successful artist or not, I would have quit a long time ago, right? Now, I will tell you, the first probably 15 years of my life and my career as an artist, it was very much, I call it out of survival, right? How am I going to survive as an artist? I needed to buy all the tools I needed to make sculpture. And it's really great when I think about this survival, those TV shows they have where it's like they put people naked out in the cold, deal with stuff. It's like my first shop they called Jungle Forge. I had a tarp out behind my house. I lived out near Lake Lanier, so it was maybe like 45 minutes out of the city, kind of in the country. And I had this 79 Ford F-150, like I really was all about surviving. I built my forge by hand, I mean, it was just really like, I really was living into that context of my first day of art school. Now this was 5 years after I finished, 5 years after I started art school. I moved to Georgia. I moved from Boston to Georgia. And it was all about surviving, and I spent the first 2 years, I worked with other people. I got paid $8 an hour. It was a big deal when I finally got paid $10 an hour for different people. But I noticed there was one time there was this metal shop that called me up and they said, Karina, we want you to come work for us. We'll pay you whatever you want. So I asked for $25 an hour.
Wow. Did you
They
get
said they
it?
weren't going to pay me that. No, they wouldn't pay me
Oh.
that. But I noticed, right, inside of that there was a different context than calling someone up out of the white pages. Hi, I'm Karina. I see that you have a
Yeah.
metal shop. Can I come work with you? Versus the other way. Karina, we've heard about you. We want
Mhm.
you to come work with us. And so in that moment, I realized I was excited. I felt wanted. I felt needed. My reputation preceded me.
Mm.
Okay. So for me, one of my definitions of success is being invited.
Mm.
I get all excited about it. Right?
Yeah.
Because it means a couple things. It means like, oh, someone out there is thinking about me and they want me to come and do this thing or be in this show, or they want to write an article about me, or, on and on and on. It isn't like, hi, I'm Karina, and I've done a lot of that. Okay. But I much prefer when someone calls me up and they say, we want you. Whether it was that first job when I was in my 20s or even grad school. I told you guys the story about grad school. I was thinking about going on the West Coast and I'd been a visiting artist at Georgia State University.
No, you didn't tell
And
me.
word got out that I was thinking about going to grad school. This was 6 years after I'd been out of undergrad.
Okay.
And the head of the sculpture program called me up.
Wow.
I was literally on a campus in California looking at colleges. I made a list of all the schools I wanted to go to.
Mm.
I was like, I'm ready to go to grad school now. I've been out of school 6 years. I started a business. I've been making art. Now I want to go to grad school. I proved I could make a living with my hands.
Mm.
So called me up and he said, Karina, we want you to come. If you're going to go to grad school, we want you to come here. And if you do, we'll pay you a stipend and we will, you won't have to pay tuition.
Wow.
And
Wow.
you can take all the classes you want.
Whoa, that's a pretty good deal. This is Georgia State?
At Georgia State, George
Right.
Beasley, he called me up. And so I was like, right then and there, I'm standing in these campuses that are beautiful and there's the ocean and the terrain of California. It was like my dream to move to California, right? Most of my life. And there I am, I'm literally on the campus and they're asking me to come back to Georgia.
Wow.
But right there in that moment, I thought, none of these schools in California, they don't even know who I am,
Right.
let alone offering to pay my tuition.
Wow, that's huge.
Now, sometimes I think what would have happened in my life if I just chose to go out anyway and create a new reputation, right?
Right, sure. I have a question. Do
Yes.
you feel that graduate school was worth it? Was it worthwhile in your
yeah.
career? Okay.
Oh, totally.
Made
Yeah.
a difference. Was your undergraduate fine arts or sculpture?
Yeah. My undergraduate, I did a dual major in sculpture and metal smithing.
Right. Wow.
You know that, Susan? I started in jewelry.
Oh.
Oh.
Cool. Yeah, I started in jewelry.
Well, maybe you told me that.
Yeah. But I really liked metal smithing. I like raising copper bowls
Mm.
and all that stuff. But I didn't like, it was so, I'm just going to use the word snooty. It was really snooty. And I liked the people the sculpture professors were so fun to be with. And
Right.
jewelry.
Yeah, jewelry's a little different.
They
It's
were
a little different.
like,
Yeah, it's a
you
little
know,
different.
I was
It's
like,
much more. It's much more superficial.
yeah, this is a ring I made,
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Mhm. But at any rate, so that's one form of success for me is being invited. Now,
Mhm.
I love being invited into exhibitions.
Yes.
That I always feel like, wow, I apply to a lot of stuff, you guys. I applied to a big thing. It's called Artadia.
Mm.
I was working really hard on it. That's the one where I had the people working on the essays with me. But guess what? I didn't get chosen.
Mm.
Mm.
But do you know,
Okay.
I got interested in who were the people who did get chosen. And one of them was one of my students.
Really?
Yes. And as a teacher, one of the highest forms of success is for your students to
Right.
precede you. Did you hear that, folks?
Right, yes. Oh,
I
we'll work
almost
on
didn't
it.
hear
We'll
it.
work on that.
Okay.
That'll be our goal, is to succeed.
Okay, so that's just a little bit about success, right? So for me, it's one of the big definitions for success is being invited, right?
Mm.
Another form of success for me is seeing my name in print.
Right.
I love an article. Ah,
Yeah, me too.
Here, I actually pulled my website up to look at something. I'll show you. I have a whole section on my website that's called press.
Right. Me too.
You do?
Yeah, I have a lot of press.
Yeah. And this is the way I look at
Made
it.
it all I created it all myself. Like I got all the press myself, just about most of it. It is nice when somebody calls you, but
It's really great, but it's good to have a press release, right? I'll send.
I have a question. Who do you contact to get written about you?
Well, you can make it your business to find out the people who write about art. I'll show you guys real quickly. And one thing that I did was when I was in graduate schools, my professors said, Karina, you've been out of school a little bit, you're a little bit advanced. So I have a whole section that's called press. There's also podcasts. See this one?
oh, wow.
Podcast.
You have to be brave for that.
Yeah, you do.
That's after grad school.
Yeah. You can do it before grad school too.
I could if I felt comfortable.
So something that's important, notice that I have these really great pictures here.
Yeah.
I have a photographer that I paid. I love this picture. I like making things bigger than I am. So, this is just a little bit, these are a couple examples. But I have all these really great photographs. And then when someone says they want to write an article, I have pictures ready to send to them.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a whole file of them. Notice most of these are done by, there's two different photographers who have taken most of my photographs. One is Terrell Clark. Now, even though I have this exhibition up, it's at a beautiful gallery in Augusta. I'm going to go with him because look, he was photographing the work, but he really likes photographing people. So I get these great photographs of me with the work. I go, oh, did I just freeze? You guys
No.
Everything's good? Okay, it froze.
Yeah.
So, stop sharing. The internet's a little bit funny here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully we'll just go back to being able to go normal in a second. All right. There we go. I don't know if it's my computer or the internet. There we go. At any rate, so that's just a little bit. So, you asked a great question. How do you get in contact?
Oh, she froze.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're back.
So that's a really good question. How do you, there we go. It was freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
for a second. Yeah.
Sorry. You guys are being very patient with all of this. So how do you get in touch with people who, well, I mean, the first thing, I like to do some research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a little easier when there were art openings and you could go out and you would see different people, but you can read, do you read articles ever that are written like in your local arts? Do you have an arts section for Houston or for where you are in Portland? You're in Portland, right, Susan?
Me? Oh, I'm in Maine. I'm in Southwest Harbor. Oh, she froze again.
It should set itself, probably.
You're in
I'm
Maine.
I'm in Southwest Harbor. I actually wrote to the local arts writer And because
Okay, great.
I've been wanting to, so I wrote to her, I've been wanting to have her write about me for a long time. And since I'm in that exhibition, I wrote to her and gave her a little schmooze, a little pitch. And she said she'd love to write about me. And
Oh,
then she said she'd get back to me. She hasn't yet. She's going to talk to her editor. But
okay, great.
yeah, I'm very good. That's one thing I'm good at is getting press and promoting myself. I'm a shameless self promoter, and I'm good at
Great.
that. That's not. I don't have
Awesome.
that problem.
That's
That's
not a problem.
not
Do
an
you want
issue.
to share a tip or two with Lavanya?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So like for example, I'll give you an example. When I first started doing the rope, I found there was a textile artist that had been written up in an online uh, publication called textileartist.org. And I saw somebody introduced me to this artist, and I saw this article about her. I was like, wow. I mean, I liked her work, but I saw it was textileartist.org. So I Googled it and I wrote to them. I just wrote an email. I always put images in so they see the work. And then because I have that big thing, they go, wow, we'd love to write about you. So that's what I do. I just write to people. I usually will email them, and I will put images in the body of the email so that they see the work. And then I just say, I send them bits of information. And the thing is, publications are always looking for content. And so I've done blogs, I've written to blogs. So when I see people whose work I admire or places I want to be in the article, someplace I want to be in, I just write to the place. And some people, of course, bite and the others don't, And so that's my tip.
Cool.
Just
Was
go
that help?
for it.
Yeah, just go for it. A lot of times people are looking for something to write about or someone to write about.
Right.
Yeah.
Blogs and, I don't know, just whatever. And if you have something newsworthy, of course, it's, if you're in a show or whatever, or you
Yeah.
give them, sometimes you do some kind of, how I got into it. They're not all that creative either. They're looking for a cat, like a hook, so if you could relate it to real estate or some story about your life or something, something. Anyway.
You have some time leading up to this show that you're going to have, right, with the other people. So that's a great opportunity to, start early. And magazines, they are months and months. They book months and months ahead of time. Like in Atlanta, we have a magazine called Atlanta Magazine, and so what you can do is so one time I belonged to this group on Facebook. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a kind of a cheesy name, but it's like different people that want to help each other do cool stuff. And it's mostly women. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just kind of stumbled across it one time. And every once in a while, there's an article that's kind of interesting. And I saw that this woman was looking to write articles about people.
Wow.
What did I do? I pulled Susan's trick, right? I wrote to her and I said, hi, I'm Karina, and da 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 da. And I introduced myself. I invited her for a studio visit.
Oh, nice.
Now, don't worry about if your studio is at your home. A lot of people have studios at their homes. Okay. And, and something, and even in times of COVID, I just assure people, I say, listen, I'll wear a mask if you want to wear a mask, and I prefer if you would wear a mask. And I just say, or you can do a virtual studio visit. Like the show that I have that's up in Augusta right now. I did a virtual studio visit right at the beginning. I've been meaning to do more, but I got really busy. This one friend of mine, he's in every museum in the US and now in multiple other countries as well. He said to me early on, he said, Karina, what makes your career are curators and collectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somewhere in there, press also, right?
Right.
And you can apply for shows all day long, but what's the really great thing? Sometimes I'll apply for a show just because I'm interested in who the curator is.
Right.
Okay. I'll read a little bit about the curator. And I think I shared this with you one time. The guy that said he won the MacArthur Award.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. You want to see a little copy of a press release?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll pull up a press release. This is actually for the show in Augusta. Susan, you write press releases for your shows, or do you just kind of write a letter?
Well, I don't. I mean, I haven't actually done anything I still haven't sent out stuff about the show that I'm in.
Okay.
I really should have. I
Okay.
have written press releases, but I
Yeah.
didn't for this show.
Yeah. So there's certain basic
Should have.
information that you want. This was written by the curator, right?
Yeah, it's nice when they will, like the Botanic Garden, they wrote, I asked them to write a press release.
Yeah.
I made that sort of part of the deal.
Yeah.
And then I sent it around. I did send that around.
Yeah.
a little bit.
So
But
you
I haven't done anything about the biennial as much.
But that could be a big deal, right?
It is a big deal, and I have that, and the Botanic Garden is still up. So I really, I just had a lot going on.
It happens. I was talking to my bookkeeper who helps me do some of my technical admin stuff, and even just writing this insurance claim on top of everything else, and then I have this grant
Right.
now, and they want this midpoint progress report. It's like, oh my God. But I
Yeah.
was like, I'm almost done with it. Can't I just give you the final?
Right,
No.
right.
Anyway, so you want to have the logistics right in the very top. Okay. You want the name of the place.
Right.
I like the way she writes this. Announces, the Augusta University Mary S. Bird Gallery of Art announces Dreamscapes. It's the title of my show, Dreamscapes, my name. And then it gives where it is and the hours that it's open. Usually right in the beginning, you put the dates, right?
Right.
Oh, in the first paragraph, they put the dates. Okay. And then just a really brief description of what the words are, of what the works are. Okay. And then you go into a little bit of a bio
Mm.
or artist statement. And it was so great because she worked on all this stuff with me. And even just recently, I was like, please, would you mind sending me the most final copy? Because we had so many copies going back and forth, and we had a second editor on top of it all.
Right.
So, but she loved it. And then she said, listen, if you ever want, you can use me as a reference. So I just made a genuine friend there. And really,
Right.
when you start talking about curators, it's like, you don't want to be a person that's like using people, right? I think that the way to create genuine relationships creates genuine working relationships, right?
Right. Are you able to, could you submit that, will you put this on, can you share this with us in the Facebook group?
In the Facebook group, I think so. Yeah.
So that
I
we
know you
can,
still want a copy of a letter, and every day I'm like, I should look for that most.
I know, I really do want to copy the letter.
I know. So
It
it
helps to have a template.
helps to have a template. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right,
Right.
it does help.
You guys, what's another really great resource for templates of things is the CAA for College Arts Association.
Mm.
But do you have to be a member?
No, I think you can just look on their website because my membership's expired.
I
Mm.
have only a few things I could see.
Oh, really? They don't
Yeah.
have in their library for resources? Oh,
No.
okay. Maybe I looked all that up when I was a
I
member.
mean, I've Googled, you can Google them too, or you could go and look at other people's press releases online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good
But
idea.
it's nice if you can send it to us, that would be great.
All right. I'll do it. You know what I'll do? I'll just do it in email. How about that?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, that would be great.
I'll do that. Okay. Speaking of things, I did send you guys something pretty great. Did you see
I saw that.
Oh, are you talking about the Lisa
2
Tuttle?
emails with
Is that the Lisa Tuttle and the
Yeah, and Lisa.
Lisa Thrower?
It's funny that they're both Lisa, right?
Yeah,
And
I
then-
actually worked with Lisa Thrower once.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I know her originally from Mocha before they moved. I met her.
Yeah. Well,
And they-
Lisa is starting a business, and she's been working with artists.
Mm,
She's an
yeah.
art consultant right now
Right, with Amy Parry.
with Amy Perry, exactly.
Right.
And but she's also branching into her own business of working directly with artists. And here, I can stop screen sharing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that really worked well for me. I started to talk. We did work together a little bit.
Oh, okay.
It didn't really work for me.
It didn't work for you. Okay.
She was sweet. She's very sweet. Maybe it was a long time ago, so maybe.
Okay. Well, you can always give it a try. And then
But
Lisa Tuttle.
Lisa Tuttle, on the other
Lisa
hand,
Tuttle is very good
amazing.
also. And
Mhm.
Lisa Tuttle has a lot of experience with public art.
right.
I hired Lisa Tuttle to work with me on my essay
Right.
for
you
the
said that.
project in Chicago.
Right, you told us that was,
Yeah.
she's
So
great.
she's really, really great. And she hosts a Saturday morning. It's kind of like a podcast where she interviews different
Really?
artists and stuff like that.
Oh, I think when I went to her page after you sent it to us, I think I saw that, and I think I signed up or something. I did
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was great. Thank you.
she's, and then another really great resource. This is in Atlanta, C4, but they have a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of national resources as well. So,
Right.
Lavanya, you might think about that too. And the fourth one, Jessica, she's
Mhm.
all about arts and professionalism of C4, Jessica with the Y.
What is C4?
C4 is an arts organization here in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
But they post this wonderful newsletter, every week, and it's full of different opportunities.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and Susan, you said that you signed up for the Fractured Atlas with Ray
Yes.
Perry. He's really
No,
great.
no, I didn't work with him. You're talking about Brainard Carey?
Yeah, is that?
what you're talking about? Yeah, that's his name. I just did his webinar and he mentioned it, and I don't know if you mentioned it also the same day. But I signed up and I paid for it's $10 a month.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I don't know.
I'm still on their Facebook page, and different people write different things, and they put them up
Yeah.
there, and they get feedback and stuff like that.
I haven't figured out how to work with them yet, but I will.
Yeah, there's different programs you can pay a certain amount of money, and
It's not.
but it's not that hands-on. Like he doesn't sit there like I am with you guys. You know what I mean? That much.
Right.
It's
Well,
sort of,
there's no way to see how to set something up. I have to just contact them
yeah.
and say,
He's
how
very
does this
helpful.
work?
He's very helpful. I'll show you. I have a book right here.
Who's helpful?
Brainerd Carey,
Why? That's not his organization, is it?
Fractured Atlas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you know him?
I signed up to work with him, but it was during a very difficult time. My mother was not well, and I ended up now. I watched some of his free things, but I watched I started to do some of his classes, but I just didn't have time, so I didn't renew.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
didn't know Fractured Atlas was him. He didn't say that.
yeah.
He acted like it was, but it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know,
So this is a book.
Oh,
I don't know. I signed up for one of his programs, and he sent me this book, and it sat on my bookshelf for the longest time.
right.
And then when I was at the residency this summer, I mean, it's like one of my favorite days being at the artist residency was laying in a boat one day reading it, and it has these just great articles about different ways that people have done their professional life.
He's really good. He's really good about, like how he got into the Whitney Biennial. He's really good, and he has a lot of free. Look him up, Lavanya, because
he's really great.
you can get a lot of free advice from him. He's got a bunch of things on YouTube about how to do this, how to do that, and if you're kind of a self-starter, you figure it out and do it on your own.
Yeah,
he's good.
Yeah, so the resources that I gave you in that sheet, those were ones that were really like people who you can reach out to, and it sounded like you guys wanted to help with the writing,
Yes.
And as much as I'd love to say, I know it's a very important role, but I usually get someone to help me. That's how I figured out that works best for me. So I wanted to give
I guess it's hard because sometimes I've hired people before and they're just not getting it. I hired this one woman.
Well,
God, it was such a waste of money.
Well, you've got to really have the bare bones of what your work is about for you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And have the bare bones, and then have someone help you polish it up.
Right.
You know
Well, I kept thinking someone was gonna, interview me and then write this wonderful thing for me.
Yeah.
Does anybody know John Seed? He used to write. That's how I ended up. He's a professor, but he's also an arts writer and a critic or whatever. But he is also somebody, Lavanya. You should look him up. John Seed. There, she's going away. Anyway, because he's a writer and he wrote an article for me, and he wrote for the Huffington Post, and I ended up in the Huffington Post because of him. It's kind of a long story. His name is John Seed, Seed.
Okay.
He's a really good writer, so he was great. And he wrote my press release for one of my rope piece things that I was doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I highly recommend him. He's good.
Yeah, so so publication for me is another form of success,
Right, right.
right? And you can write your own press release. You can, be involved with other organizations where they're going to write the press release. You can reach out directly to people who write about art or lifestyle. You might even think, I know you do, like with your daughter. I mean, there might even be some opportunities, Lavanya, for, like inside of that community as well.
Yeah.
Just thinking. And now I noticed that you have some really nice photographs of your work with like a home setting.
In a
with-
room?
in a
Yes.
room. Is that like a
It's an
program?
app.
It's an app?
It's an
Yeah, what is,
yeah,
which
yeah.
app is that? Is it room, art room?
Art rooms.
Art room?
room.
I was
Yeah.
wondering. I've been meaning to ask you.
But you have to pay for that monthly, don't you?
Yes, yes. So when I'm updating my website, I usually subscribe, get
Oh.
all the pictures done, and then unsubscribe.
Oh, you can do that, right?
It's a really cool app because you just put the dimension in. It gives you
Right.
shadows and everything,
Oh,
framing.
wow,
So
wow.
You subscribe. How much is the subscription?
$7 actually, not much. But then
Right. So a month, and then you can unsubscribe, and then you can resubscribe.
yeah,
Oh, that's great.
That's funny. That's really good.
we've been going through a crazy year this time. So yeah, I
That's
subscribe, unsubscribe, do it
Well,
again.
sure. I mean, who wants to pay for all that all the time?
Yeah.
If you don't need it.
Great. So, I've shared with you a few of the areas that success, means to me. Each of you, what's an area that means success for you?
I can go. I recently came up with one thing. Like when you said you like to be written about, like seeing you, I like to be talked about. Like somebody talking about my work and describing, like they make these videos where other
Yeah.
art curators and art theorists are talking about the artist and their work and the
Yeah.
philosophy. That's something I would love. That's like my ultimate measure of success.
I mean, if somebody references you when they're talking about art,
Not just reference, like they are able to talk about my work,
oh,
like describe it and talk about the philosophy and my
wow.
thinking. So, so people talking about my work and understanding what it's about and what I'm trying to point across and really like highlighting the best features of it.
Like an
Yep.
intellectual dialogue about the work.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's one I came up with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Do you
Anything
wanna-
for you?
So yes, oh yeah. So either I like, when I'd love to be written about in the New York Times. That's one of my big goals, is to be in the New York Times. And then another thing is to be at MoMA.
Right.
And then, or the Met, but MoMA
Okay.
probably. And then also, like, if somebody asks me to be in a show, because that has not happened a lot.
Mhm.
Where, like you said, where somebody says, "Oh, we'd love for you to be in the show," that would feel like success to me. That people, are looking for me, like they're recognizing who I am and wanting my work in their show.
Right. Excellent. What's really great about all this is that you both know that there are certain aspects of success and you're present to what they are.
Mm.
Right? Now, I'm not going to lie. It's always wonderful to get a big check. It's always
Yeah,
wonderful.
that would be nice. But
Yeah, but if we only depended on feeling that we were successful only when we sell a piece for a lot of
Yeah.
money,
yeah,
we might be miserable.
yeah.
Yes.
It's never been about the money for me, but it would be nice to make some. It would be nice.
Definitely.
It's definitely not about. I don't do it. I'm not doing it for the money.
No, it's good. It's great to get paid.
Yeah, of course, especially when you need the money.
I can share a couple of occasions with you where people were moved emotionally. I can think of three particular events where people were brought to tears
Mm.
Wow.
by looking at my work.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
there's no money, there's no fame, but there's an emotional connection,
Mm.
right? And so Susan Lavagna and I will participate with this group called Wisdom, and we have this big global conference. And one time I had my artwork as a part of a, like, you know, at a science fair, they have like posters. There's all little booths and people. So I had one and it was about race, and it was with a friend of mine. And she had this whole concept, what race is a rose, you know? And I was working with this theme, we're all in the same boat. And so I had these
Right.
sculptures that had to do with this
Right.
concept of we're all in the same boat. And there was a man that I knew from being in a course with, and he walked up and he was looking and he just stopped. And he just was so moved. Tears were like
Aw.
coming down his face,
Wow.
you
That's
know?
amazing.
And I just thought, like, to be able to make work where someone has that kind of an emotional connection, do you know, that there was tears streaming down their face, you know?
Wow.
So that was pretty intense. And then one time a couple years ago, I was in this outdoor sculpture show in North Carolina. And this woman wheeled up in an electronic wheelchair, and I had this sculpture that was about refugees.
Mm.
And there have been different times throughout history in big mass movements of refugee. And so this piece, you know, there's a lot of conversations that mesh together, like the refugee movement from like Syria with like people leaving Germany and Eastern Europe and whatnot in the 30s and in the early 1900s. And so uh, this woman came along, and this piece, even though I made it and it was more about contemporary refugee situations, called Uprooted. And it's all these people in a boat, and there's these ladders and these roots at the base of the ladders, you know. I also won a Best in Show award for this project too. I just remembered. But there's something about the image, right, that's very striking, and you get it just from, and it's simple, but you get it. And this woman came along, and she just started crying,
Mm.
and and she came to this country as a young child on a boat
Mm.
and had that memory, you know. And there was something about looking at that piece, and she knew exactly what it was about. She hadn't even looked at the title, Uprooted, you know.
Right. Right.
And I told you all about how I got that 3-page letter one time from someone who said that they would go and visit the
Right.
sculpture.
Yeah.
So for me, that's another form of success. Now, notice there's no money at all involved
Right.
with any of those experiences.
Right.
But somebody was moved emotionally enough to communicate to me, right? And this made me think of it too when you were talking about like people being intellectually interested in your work, Lavanya.
Mm.
And so, you know, sometimes you touch people in a very particular way. And sometimes that does lead to a sale. Not every single time.
Mhm.
Sometimes it does. Or it's a really great story to tell. Or
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
you know, you touch someone. You know, art is a form of communication.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that's a little bit about success. Any other areas that were stirred for any of you, either of you?
Well, Paula Wallace, who's the president of SCAD, has been really supportive of my work. And so I've gotten some really great quotes from her. Because I know her because I was on the board of the advisory board, and I came up with the name SCADPad.
SCADPad.
Yeah, anyway, I came up with that. But anyway, so that's really great to know that she's in my corner, and just, she's really, you know, she's really, that's really, to me, that's a huge success.
Yeah.
Again, no money, but
Yeah. Now I've seen her do interviews with people like on Instagram and stuff like that, like Instagram live interviews. Have you ever talked to her
yeah,
about
she
doing an
she
interview?
usually doesn't usually do her students. I'm not ready to do those verbal public things yet.
Okay.
I mean, not quite
All right. Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Are you gonna talk more about some staying inspired? Is that what you said?
Yeah. The next thing
Yeah.
is staying inspired. Anything else about success before we go to staying inspired?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So, so there's a couple different ways, and I speak from my own experience, right? And but everyone has their own ways of being inspired. Okay. So one of the ways, which I've seen many of your Facebook postings and social media about visiting museums.
Mm.
So, I have these visions of having my work in museums. Sometimes I drop pieces off and I leave them there in the museums too.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
Little art drops,
right.
So but that's something that constantly keeps me inspired. Like sometimes I feel like, oh, I don't know what my ideas are. Or I get very busy with commissions, you guys,
Mhm.
and I'm busy like brainstorming and like thinking about how this is going to happen and meeting with people. I do. But it's one of the ways that I've figured out that I can make a living. Now I'm excited about the commissions, but sometimes there's all this technical stuff I'm trying to figure out and engineering.
Yeah,
It feels like it robs my creative brain sometimes. Okay.
right.
That part of it. So, but I love going to a museum. I love standing there next to the really big pieces on the walls. I like being in the space of a museum. And so that's a way that I stay inspired. And it's
Yeah.
also a way that it pushes me to think about pursuing my work and not giving up.
Right.
There's plenty of times along the ways, like I'm trying to think who I was talking to recently. I was talking to someone and I was talking to my studio assistant. And I said, one of the main reasons people give up being artists is that it's just not consistent.
Mm.
Like we went through a little gap where we were waiting for this project to happen and waiting for that one to happen. And so I had like a little credit where I owed him for like a couple weeks of work, and then I paid it all back. Right. And, we were in communication about that and everything. And we were talking and I was like, God, we're so busy right now. We have so many different projects going on, and we just had a whole conversation about that because it's one of the things that has people, the dangerous thing when you get really busy is like, oh, you're going to let one of the balls drop,
Mm.
So we've been creating some organizational, and he's been helping me with that a little bit, which I really like. We have this whiteboard and I said, let's put all the projects up there
Mm.
and the things that we need to, do that are like unresolved. Sometimes I make a maquette for a piece, but there's certain things that are a little unresolved, like we're working with this one project and they're going to powder coat it and, a way that we would mechanically connect. Anyway, just technical stuff.
Right.
So staying inspired, honestly, things like this, like these conversations with you guys are very inspiring for me.
Right. I find that too. That to me
Yeah.
awesome.
Having a community to talk with and
Right.
meet with and problem solve with, having friends that you can talk to, hopefully not complain to too much, but sometimes you get complaints out,
Artist friends.
Artist friends, it's really
I
good.
have a lot of friends who are not artists, and my closest friends are not creative at all.
Yeah. So having someone that you can talk to that is going to like also be inspired and that you'll inspire each other.
Right.
Dialogue. I have certain artist friends that are very mysterious and they keep to themselves in their studio, but I know if I'm kind of problem solving on something and I'll start talking to him about it, he'll start asking me the hard questions. Well, what are you really trying to say? And he'll get real deep with me and I'm like, sometimes I'll change the subject if I don't want to go that deep.
Wow.
If I really tell the truth, right?
Wow.
What it was, there was something that I was working on. I sent him a picture of it and he started asking me questions and like, well, I use certain things symbolically and there's ones I use repetitively, but there's some new materials and images that I've been bringing in. And I don't know that and they're a little more like kind of spiritual and ritualistic. And I don't know that I'm ready to 100% talk about it, like in a way that it makes sense. I generalize. I like to generalize about it, When you started asking me all these specific questions and I noticed I changed the topic.
Right.
So having your artist friends, right? Now, one thing that's good to look that you want to look out for, sometimes you have your artist friends that want to be inspired and keep you inspired and them inspired. And then sometimes you have those artist friends and they're sort of like, oh, like
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it. Like I had this one friend and it was like he started getting annoyed because I won a couple of different awards all in a row.
Oh,
I
oh,
just kind of like stopped talking to him for a little while. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Not like I'm going to ignore him, but it was like, okay, he doesn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear his responses, you know?
Right, right. I have a negative artist friend. I don't talk to him.
They always complain. And so
Or
you
just
want,
critical of me too,
yeah. And
but
so
not in a good, like not helpful. It's not even, he's wrong, completely wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
right. So, and now another thing that I find myself being very inspired is being in nature.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like I'm looking at Susan's background. I love a walk in the woods.
it's not even, it's funny. It's a garden, you got a dumpster in the background there.
Is that a dumpster? I was wondering
Yeah.
about that.
It's a sewer pipe, and that's what it's just, I grabbed it because I knew it would be a good back. It would just, whatever. It's not important. But yeah,
Well, it's not that, you know, obvious until you say so.
right, right. No, I know. But yeah, walking in nature is very inspiring. And Lavanya, all your work looks a lot like floral. I mean,
Yeah.
is it? So I would think nature also inspires you.
Yes. Only I haven't been out so much this year.
Mm.
I've been cooped up at home, and that's why last
Oh,
week I did 2 museum visits, and
oh, nice.
that really helped.
It does,
Yes,
doesn't it?
museums really help me.
It's like a
It's so
cathedral.
important.
Yes.
So important. Having solitude and having the time and the solitude to be able to get your brain into that without, dealing with laundry and cooking and cleaning and, whatever.
Exactly.
All the pill paying and, whatever, all that other stuff.
Hmm.
Now, another thing, I love being on the surface of the water. Like the stand-up paddleboard that I just got.
Oh, yeah.
I go a couple times a week. I just leave it on top of my car because I might decide tomorrow's the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
Get out. What's tomorrow? Thursday? Might go
Uh-huh.
tomorrow morning. Yeah.
that's nice.
But I find that my whole day is just wonderful when I do that,
Right.
like give
Wow.
myself that space to go out and start the day. Sometimes a walk in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I've been walking every morning. I walk now. It's through the woods and around this water. I posted one of the pictures, but it just makes such a I mean, if I don't feel like it, I still force myself because I do it first thing in the morning. I get it out of the way, and I just am so inspired. It gives me time to think. I just love it. It really makes a difference.
Yeah. And another thing for me is having a sketchbook.
Oh,
Mm.
I have so many sketchbooks.
yeah,
I'm going to show you one. I have this really cool one right over here. It's just a little one. I've been playing with gouache lately. I like to use either watercolor or gouache. And but I like having just a small, manageable sketchbook. And these are a couple. I've been working with this theme of the boat and the water, and then all these little circles. Which are kind of the thought.
Mm.
And then, and I didn't have any paintbrushes, and so I used a stick.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
cool.
But sometimes I'll work out sketches. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'll sketch. I have these oars that I'm working on,
Right.
and then I'll write about them too. I'll do a little bit of writing.
Oh, wow.
Get my ideas. But I
Yeah.
love this book. It's thick watercolor paper. So what I don't like about a sketchbook is when, this is kind of from a long time ago, but it's just a fun page.
Yeah.
Just like your paintings.
Yeah, that's great. I can't draw, so I don't know.
Do you ever
That's
sketch your rope ideas? Some boats that are all like these little circles.
Yeah.
wow.
Like your cell sculpture.
Yeah.
That reminded me of those little circles. It almost felt like if you made the metal, the flat plate, and then you set bezels and had all these different stuff.
Oh my God, that would be so much work.
Like miniature, like a miniature boat all encrusted with jewels.
This is my
Wow.
friend's kid.
Oh, that's great.
But I kind of like it. It's like my drawing that's all tight, and then this like really
Yeah.
loose kid drawing,
Yeah, I want to send it.
So I like having a sketchbook. And
Oh,
this is a special one.
that's nice. Yeah.
This is this bird that came to visit me
Maybe
uh,
I'll do that.
the
I
morning
understand.
my mom passed. Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, I remember you talking about
oh,
it.
share that with you. Yeah,
oh,
because we were in that course together.
Yeah.
And sometimes
oh,
I'll write, oh, what was this? I think it was a quote from Martin Luther King because it was MLK Day.
oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
was,
maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll get my sketch. I have a million sketch pads everywhere, but I never use. And maybe I'll do that, and I'll make every once a day. I will do
yes,
something in the sketchbook.
once a day is a great thing. I
I'm gonna
started
do
doing that
that.
when I moved here. Once
Even
a
if it's not anything specific, because I'm not very good at drawing, but even
yeah,
if it's a design or just some color
yep,
or some
Mhm.
words or something.
something, And then I've been doing something called the Artist Way. I don't know if either of you have done
Oh, I had the
I
book.
have that book. I need to finish
I
it.
didn't end up
but you
doing it,
need
but
you need a partner.
yeah,
Yeah.
This is one of
well,
my
it didn't.
favorite
Nice.
drawings.
It wasn't good for me because I don't have the fear. I think it was about a lot about fear. I don't have any fear, but but what I did do many years ago when my kids were little and I was just getting back into art, which I, gave up for a long time,
Oh,
but
nice.
that's beautiful, there was a book called Making Room for Making Art. And
Exactly.
that really helped me because
Yeah.
especially when you have little kids. I don't know, Lavanya, if you have little kids, but
I do.
I just, and I really, been my biggest issue is making room for making art.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's,
There's the serious big stuff like writing letters and talking to museums, but having a little sketchbook is something that is just,
yeah,
it's always been
right.
something that I have hundreds of sketchbooks. One time I saw a museum show that this woman had, and they had a glass case and she had
Right,
all,
with all
I
her
can
sketch.
show
I
you.
know, that's the thing. I also need it for my
Let me show
legacy.
you this.
Yeah.
I picked this up of this artist at the museum.
yeah.
It's just a booklet, and so it's like a
Is that yours?
no. This is Robin O'Neill.
Oh, and you bought it?
She had her work at the Modern Museum of Art
Oh,
at Fort Worth,
oh,
and
oh,
so this is this booklet that
made.
it's a printed book. It's
Yeah.
not a handwritten book,
Yeah.
but on one side they have the interview with the curator
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
asking her questions, and the other side is
Oh,
all her sketches
love
from a
that.
book.
That's so great.
And it's just, she uses a composition book
Right.
in real life as her sketchbook.
Oh,
And so I thought it was a neat little piece
Yeah.
just to remind myself that, it
you could
doesn't
do
have to
something. It
look
doesn't have to be
great.
fancy. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
fancy.
even a composition book with
Right.
your work in
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
Right.
is a great,
I love that.
Very good.
it was $10. And,
Yeah.
I like the whole idea of it.
Yes, I do too. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. And so I think it's really important to have a little space that's an outlet that
Mm.
you can even, honestly, in that very book, I did a little exercise where every day I would just put something down.
Right. Right.
And
That's
it
what I'm
didn't
gonna
have to be a big, fancy, finished anything. It was just, I would just put something down.
Mm.
And a number of years ago, maybe 2000, and thanks for sharing that, Lavanya.
You're welcome.
But artist books are wonderful. I've made handmade books too,
Right. Right.
because it's just for yourself,
Right.
Right.
And one time I regret doing this. I sold one of my books, my sketch
Oh,
books.
wow.
I sold
Oh,
it for a
really?
lot of money too, but it was my book of beautiful places. Like you saw that landscape.
Yeah.
I
Right.
pick landscapes because I like to take in the environment. I don't want to be like a
Mm.
landscape painter per se,
Mm.
That being said, I've gone to Spain and I've gone to Italy and I've done landscape painting with Pat Fiorello.
Wow.
And it's fun, right? And it's a bunch of ladies that are a lot older than I am for the most part, but it's like a wonderful way to look at an environment and take it in. And so I had this book of beautiful places and I sold it to one of my collectors and
Wow.
I visited every once in a while.
No, my God.
Maybe you can take pictures.
I know, right? It's like I've made so many more. I should just make another book and it's all a book of beauty.
Yeah.
Grand
Yeah.
Canyon in it. There was
That's the thing.
climbing.
Like I take a lot of photographs with my phone. I think that's my way of because I'm better at documenting. It's sort of I
Yeah.
want to capture that feeling. I'm not really good at drawing, but it would be good practice. My
Yeah.
cousin is doing a series. She's done this over the years. She does a portrait a day and then she exhibits them as 365,
That's
days.
really great.
Small
So what's her
portrait.
name?
Her name is Fran Beeler.
Okay.
It's my last name, Fran Beeler.
Okay.
She's a very talented artist, but anyway.
That's great.
But that's, I love that. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
that. Gotta
So,
find that.
I was going to say I was a residency at the Vermont Studio Center, and flashback when I was in college in Boston at Massachusetts College of Art, Mass College of Art.
Mhm.
There was a ceramic sculptor there, and he came up to me. I'll never forget this. He came up to me and he said, "Oh, I'm doing this exercise." He's like, "I'm making a sculpture a day." And I was
Wow.
like, God, wow.
Yeah.
I was impressed. So let's see, that would have been 1990, maybe two. It was 1992. And guess what? In 2007, I did that
Wow.
myself. 2007,
Oh,
2008. Okay.
you did sculpture?
So I thought about it for a lot of years.
You did ceramic or you did your metal? You mean you did something?
I made one sculpture a day. I went on a residency at the Vermont Studio Center in Vermont,
Right.
and I made one drawing a day, and I made one sculpture a day.
Wow.
Right.
Sometimes the sculptures would leach over into the next.
Right.
I
You
was
know,
I was there for a month, and so for the first 2 weeks, so 14 days, I made 14 sculptures, and then guess what? I had a show.
right. I was gonna say that's
Vermont.
I was gonna say that's sort of like a great theme also. And that's also good for social media to say, you announce you're gonna do this and then every day so that it's like you're creating your own little event.
Pretty much.
And then you could,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be one of
trouble
your
with that.
hooks. That could be one of your hooks, Lavanya. So you could say, you go to some local, whatever, some magazine or online blog, and it's like, and that's like the theme of the story is that you do a flower day, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I have trouble with that, like declaring something and then doing the project. Most of the time, it never comes out. It doesn't match what I say, and so I'm scared to do that.
Oh, don't be afraid.
Oh, I seem to recall many years ago you said, I'm going to for 100 days. And then look what happened.
I know. I mean, I think,
What happened?
That's true.
What happened?
So that was when, at the time when I said I would do that, I was scared of finishing my artwork. I would leave it half done because it came out way better than I expected. And I did not have the courage to finish it. So
you didn't want to mess it up.
Yeah. So I created this game of I'll paint for 100 days and I'll go all out. I'm going to ruin all these 100 paintings. And I did all the themes I was scared of touching, like portrait. I was scared of something else. And I did all of that. I did landscape, I did buildings, I did elevations. And, I sold my 99th painting.
Wow.
I said, by the time I was halfway in, I said, I want to do this for a living.
Oh, wow. So that it became what you're doing now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
99.
I know, yeah.
That's amazing.
But somewhere in there, you found your style.
Yes, I did. I really discovered that I enjoyed abstract more than representational art.
Me too.
So it was well, and then I was no longer scared of finishing my art.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm not even scared of ruining a painting because I do often get attached. I'll systematically first ruin it, then paint.
Salvador Dali would go into his studio every day and he would have to kill his brother. But they named him Salvador. They named him the same name as his brother, and his brother died at birth or as a small child, or it was something that was like this traumatic story. And he would say, I'd go into my studio every day and I'd have to kill my brother. And then I could arrive.
Wow. Right.
He's so dramatic anyway,
Yeah.
But still. So we have a few moments left in our time together tonight. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about an assignment, and then I'll post it on our Facebook.
Sure.
So what I'd like for you to do is to come up with, I always like to do five things that inspire you. And make a practice out of at least one of them. You could do more, but come up with a list. Lists are great, right? Because it gets your brain jogging. So come up with a list of 5 things. Hear this, Luna? Come up with a list of 5 things that inspire you.
Right.
And then take on a practice of doing
Right.
at least one of them.
Right.
Now, do you know what the word practice means?
No. I
Practice.
mean, yes, but you tell us.
You might, like when a baby's learning to walk, it practices walking.
Mhm.
Or
Right.
when you're learning how to do yoga.
I mean, I know what practice means, but how do you mean it? You mean make it a ritual?
You make it a ritual. You
Make
can
it,
set a
make,
day.
yeah.
You
You
know,
mean like a yoga practice.
when I moved into this house, I said, I'm going to do a painting a day. I did it for 3 days solid.
Right.
And then I got super busy doing other stuff.
Right, right.
But it's funny because I did all these small paintings and I brought my big paper home and I'm like, I need to make a big painting,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Okay.
So come up with 5 things that inspire you, okay?
Mhm.
And then take a practice on of one. Bring it into your daily or weekly, okay? And then the other is, what else did we talk about? We talked about success. Make a list of what has you feel successful. Minimum of 5 things that have you feel successful. And then make a plan to pursue at least one of those,
Mhm.
to bring that into your life. Now, one thing, Susan, you mentioned all these different museums, something that people, it could be like a vision board. It could be,
Right, I was thinking of doing that actually. I've
yeah,
been meaning to do that. I've been thinking about doing a vision board. I've never really done one.
vision boards are great.
Right,
I'm about due to do a vision board myself.
right, right. I do a lot of vision boards in my head, but like I always, but I need to do it where I actually, like an actual.
Because there's something that happens when you have that visual right there in your
Mhm.
life in front of you. Maybe it's the MoMA.
Right, I have moments up on my wall.
Yeah,
It might have been something you told us to do.
yeah,
And I
I think
did
I
it.
did earlier. All
Yeah,
right, and so I'll write it in the Facebook page in
okay,
case you forget.
okay.
Any last questions or
Yeah,
ideas?
look for that letter, the one that you write to people to pitch to galleries,
Okay,
museums.
all right.
That's great. Thank you. This has been
You're
wonderful.
welcome. Enjoy and keep posting on our page.
Yes,
Okay.
I got sidetracked on that.
That's all right. I haven't been as
Thank,
active the last weeks. I've been dealing with the flood.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful week, ladies. We'll
Bye,
see you
everybody.
soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.